Hello there, Alice here. Thank you for having me in your inbox today or this evening, whenever you've stumbled upon this video. Being in your inbox is a big deal. I don't take it lightly. And my promise to you is to always offer you content that strives to share wellness information, wellness wisdom, as well as tips, tools, secrets, life hacks, if you will, for living an inspired, authentic, and beautiful, joyful life. So, over the next week or coming weeks, I'm going to be sharing a series on the 8 wellness keys that I bring into my life on a regular basis. I use these keys personally, and I also use them with clientele. So the first key that I would like to share with you today is about the power of connection. And that's a really, really big word. In a nutshell, I look at connection in a couple different ways. And the first is a connection to something bigger than ourselves. I like to call it a loving presence. So that connection to something that literally connects us to the great everything. I also look at connection in terms of connection to ourselves. Ourselves being that beautiful inner child that gets a voice, that maiden or that lover, that young, youthful vibrancy in us that gets a voice, the wise man or wise woman inside that gets a voice, and the mother and father within that gets to speak. And to me, the soul, the summation of these different voices will really show up in our desires and our wants and our needs in life. And it's a great way to start exploring these different archetypes in our being to get to know and discover more about ourselves. I see connection and also in relationship to our loved ones, to our family, our friends, our community. And the last words of community being unity, right? Our tribe. And at last, connection being to all life, to the plants, to the animals, to all of our brothers and sisters here on this earth, and even more out than that, to all life in our universe. So connection is huge. And it is, I think, the most important foundational cornerstone in a healing journey and in a human journey. I can tell you that in my life, I have walked through chronic illness, addiction, codependency, trauma, and a lot of these different isms, if you will. At the heart, what I was experiencing was a deep sense of feeling disconnected from life, feeling disconnected from other people, and disconnected from myself and my truth. So I want to share with you a tool today in terms of connection with self, and something that you can use in a very practical way whenever you are feeling disconnected. Or whenever, to me, I know I'm disconnected whenever my mind is super, super, super loud and it's talking smack and it's giving me all sorts of opinions that are not helpful and a lot of times not loving. And when it's really far out in the future or really far out in the far back in the past. I heard a very wise person once say that when they were in the ego, right, and trapped kind of in the mind would be in the past, in the future, or judging themselves or judging others. So that's kind of a great hallmark for me of like, okay, time to reel it in and get quiet and listen. So this morning I woke up, and generally when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is I go into prayer. My dad taught me several beautiful prayers when I was young, and I use those a lot. And I also use a serenity prayer in the morning before I even open my eyes. I just jump right into that. But even after when I do that in the morning and after I have a daily meditation practice, after that, the monkeys sometimes are extra loud. So this morning I was doing breakfast and I could just hear them going, right? I'm in the quadrant. And I've learned that whenever they get really loud, a lot of times there's actually a feeling that I don't want to necessarily experience or feel. But there's something underneath the chatter. And so my approach that I'm sharing with you today is I stop in that moment and I say, okay, what's going on? Because the head's loud. And once I started listening to that and I dropped in, I could feel that there was this kind of like heat and this sadness and this heaviness in my heart. And so this is where we can go down several different doorways and dimensions, right? In one space, we can go down the rabbit hole of, well, not going to feel that. So covering it up with maybe more sugar or caffeine or, fill in the blank, more so-and-so, right? More something. We get on Instagram real quick or, any kind of thing that can distract us and help us kind of jump over the feeling. I've done it bajillions of times, know all about that. The second is we can lose ourselves in other people, right? Fixating, focusing on others, which is a form of codependency, right? I feel something, so I'm going to see, I'm going to just turn all my attention to you. Done that more times than I care to count. And then the third is we can just totally numb out, not acknowledge it at all, right? And completely distract ourselves. My friend used to say, like, wrapping ourselves up in a fear burrito, right? Like sometimes putting the comforter around the head and, checking out. So whether that's just through TV or going back to bed, we have a lot of strategies for not feeling, a lot. And it makes sense because feeling is uncomfortable sometimes. It's uncharted territory. And I really think that the mind tries so hard to come up with strategies to protect us. So what I have learned is, uncomfortable as it is, I always feel better and more truthful and more connected to myself when I'm willing to feel those big uncomfortable feelings. So cut to this morning, doing the dishes, I felt this heaviness in my chest. And I just decided that I was going to stay with it. I was going to let myself feel no matter what it was. So I took a bath and I just sat there in the bath and I just let myself feel it. And for me, letting myself feel it means I'll give myself 3 to 5 minutes to take away any kind of opinion about the feeling and just feel the feeling. And just kind of almost like letting it rise up from deep inside of me. And what came up was a tremendous amount of grief and sadness from something that's happened a very long time ago. And I just stayed with it. I didn't ask it to be different or to transform into joy or to go away. I just stayed with it. And just stayed with it. And then after I stayed with it for a long time, sitting in the bath, I then brought in this connection to my loving presence, to this beautiful, giving, loving energy. And I just stayed with that energy and just felt that it loves me too. And after that, I felt better, but still felt a little heavy. And I was there to connect in another way, my fiance, and I just was there and held space for me as I expressed, cried a little, shared about what was going on. After that, felt a lot better, finished breakfast, and we went to this community event together, met with our community out here in Joshua Tree and danced and hung out and just went about our day. I went about my day and had an amazing day. And I bring all this up to share with you that when we give ourselves what I like to call the grace of staying, when we stay with ourselves, when we don't abandon ourselves in these moments that it's really, really, really tempting to, but we stay, miracles happen, spaciousness opens up, things begin to shift, and we begin to become more human, more compassionate, and we have more room actually to allow grace to come in. We have more room in our lives to be of service to other people. And we have more room in our lives to receive the joy. I really think that joy, I'm beginning to see, isn't this spiritual bypassing, like, I'm just going to feel bliss. And trust me, I've really tried to do that. Just checked out straight to bliss. Joy is when we allow the totality of our humanity to penetrate through us. And in the face of all of the feelings and all of the humanness and all of the divinity, we recognize how complex life is, how complex we are, and how beautiful things are. Those are the moments when I experience joy, is when I allow. So I leave you with that today. It's the tool, the grace of staying. When you hit these just moments where you don't want to feel it, I encourage you, just stay with it. Stay with it for 3 minutes. Stay with it for 5 minutes. And then after you do that, invite this loving presence in, however that shows up. And if you need to, then talk to a friend. Be honest, be real with where you're at. And then let it go and connect. Connect with your community. Connect with your loved ones. Get out into the world and feel that joy that's available to you when you finally allow yourself to really feel the stuff that needs to be felt. I hope you have a beautiful day. Thank you for receiving this. More soon. And Satnam. Viva. Aho. Amen. And so it is.